So this is the, most of you have probably seen this logo before. It's I Will Go, and it's the new strategic focus for the Seventh-day Adventist World Church. Reach the world, I will go. And when I first saw this, I kept on seeing it in magazines and different places around the place. And I found a similar message in Isaiah 6, verses 6 to 8. And it's a beautiful little passage. And it starts off there in verse 6. Then one of the mighty angels flew over to the altar and with a pair of tongs picked out a burning coal. He touched my lips with it and said, now you are pronounced not guilty, because this coal has touched your lips. Your sins are all forgiven. How do you think Isaiah would have felt when he heard those words? In verse 8 it says, after this I heard the Lord ask, is there anyone I can send? Will someone speak for us? I'll go, I answered. Send me. So Isaiah was so grateful that his sins was forgiven that he was willing to say, put his hand up and say, I will go. Send me. So this is I'm just going to give you a little brief explanation of how our ATSIM, and for those of you who don't know, did I mention Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Ministries? ATSIM means, yes. So I first started off here with Pastor Philip Rudge in 1910 in New South Wales, and then this is only the recorded work that was happening. There's other work that was happening that wasn't recorded as well. And then from there in 1912, a branch Sabbath school in Murgon in Queensland. And then from there, Mona Mona Mission, which is our Adventist Mona Mona Mission up in Kuranda area. And then from there was Pastor Dudley Vaughan. He started Karalundi in 1954. A beautiful man, well respected amongst our Maru Aboriginal people over there in Western Australia. And he was also asked during the period of the Stolen Generation to start another mission in Walloona in 1954 as well. And then from there, our ordination of our first Aboriginal pastor, Pastor George Quinlan, some of you may know him, in 1975. And then this is where the establishment of the ATSIM department began in 1979. As I mentioned before, they put so much tithe, I don't know whether it was 1% or 2% of the tithe away to be able to run this ATSIM program, the work here. And then this is the ATSIM directors from 1979 to 2017. Started with Pastor Bruce Roberts, Pastor Eric Davey, then Pastor Steve Peets. And then after Pastor Steve retired, we have our first ATSIM Aboriginal ATSIM director for Australia, Pastor Darren Garland. And he's a Nyungar man from Perth, but now he's based in Melbourne. Him and his wife puts up with the cold weather from time to time, coming from Perth. So it's interesting that our First Nation people here in Australia, we only make up 3.3% of the population throughout the whole of Australia. Not too many people, isn't it, for First Nation people in our own country, but only making up 3.3%. So the rest of that 96.7% is made up of non-Aboriginal from all over the world. And but it's interesting that in the Adventist Church we make up 6.6%. So we're represented more in the church than we are in Australia. And this is the Bureau of Statistics. And it reads this way here. Australian and Torres Strait Islander membership in Australia in 2011 increased by 25% since the 2008 national census. It grew significantly higher than any other populated group within the Seventh-day Adventist Church in that time period. This makes it the fastest growing ministry in Australia. And myself, Pastor Keith and Pastor Danuta are proud that we are working for the fastest growing ministry in the Seventh Adventist Church. Neville, as Western Australian Chief Protector for Children, he said, and by the way, this man here, he came to my family when they were in, where my mum was born in Balladonia. Because my mum and all of her siblings were fair, he came up to take away and put my mum's family in a mission. And my grandfather said, over my dead body you will do that. And not long after that, he passed away. And he was up on his way to pick my family up, but the Church of Christ mission heard also that my grandfather had passed away and knew what he would be doing. Sent a truck from Mount Margaret Mission, picked up my family and took them back to Mount Margaret Mission and gave them a proper upbringing before he got hold of them and put them into missions where they were abused and mistreated. Anyway, but he said the church is doing nothing for Aboriginal people. That's what he said. The church is doing nothing for Aboriginal people. Well, he was totally wrong. So we've also, my wife and I, we've taken on this challenge. I will go to the people that need to hear the gospel, that don't hear the gospel. And so this is my wife, our little daughter here, in my later age. Didn't think that I would have another daughter. I got four sons to my late wife who passed away in 2002. And then I remarried my wife in 2011, 12, and now we have a little daughter. Totally different to the boys. And this is our caravan that we travel in. It's an off-road caravan, and when we can't take our caravan, which is quite often because of the corrugated roads, we have the union so graciously brought us a car to use, and we have a fridge and freezer in there and storage rooms, and they brought us a rooftop tent to put on the top, so when we camp, at least our family's going to be safe off the ground, away from the snakes and the scorpions and the crocodiles and everything else that we see out in the bush. And we, as I mentioned, we travel the Northern Territory, look after the Northern Territory, Outback communities, through the top end of WA and South Australia. That's our territory, but we also travel down. Part of my goal is to be my job description is to go to Karralundie every year as for the national camp there, not national camp, the annual camp, and throughout other different places as well. And Pastor George Quinlan, he has also taken up this challenge. I will go. He worked for many years at Walloona, and him and his wife Esther, they both passed away now. She passed tragically a few years ago in a car accident. And then Pastor Eric Davey, some of you may know him. He worked on his own tirelessly, worked throughout the whole of Australia before we established the ATSIM director in each state. Pastor Don Philberg, he's the man that I've taken over from, and he's a little man, but big shoes. So I've got to try to fit into his big shoes, his work that he's done over the years. Him and his wife travel throughout the whole of Australia, basically living in tents. At least I said, look, I'm not going to do it like Pastor Don did. I need something a bit more safer for my family if I'm going to take my family with me. And they try and encourage to have families as well when we travel. Pastor Steve Peets, he's also taking on this responsibility or this challenge. I will go. Pastor Darren Garlett, who is our ATSIM director now for Australia, he's also, he's a shearer. He could have been shearing, but he said, no, I'm taking on this responsibility or this challenge. I will go to the First Nation people in Australia as well. And Pastor Dudley Vaughan used to travel, walk through the communities and encourage people, pray with them. And as I mentioned, he established Karralundie, the Aboriginal school, to give our Outback children an opportunity to get a Christian education. And they gave me a shirt the last time I was there a couple of weeks ago, and just to promote Karralundie as I move around. So this is the shirt that I'm wearing now. And also we have, as I mentioned, I haven't got the Mama Rafa Bible College, and which I went through, and Pastor Keith went through as well. And also I will go, these handsome young couple here, also, they could have been doing something else, but they said, no, I'm taking the gospel here to the people here in New South Wales, doing a ministry there. Other families, Fijian families, have taken on this thing as well. There's many, many other people as well who have taken on this challenge. I will go to the Outback or to the Aboriginal people in my area to take the gospel. We go up to Manangrita, which is, and there was a couple of ladies up there that wanted to be baptised, and so we baptised them. They wanted me to be baptise them in the ocean, but I said no. Of course, there's crocodiles all through there. While I was up there last time, there was a crocodile that had taken a dog. And I was with this lady here when the ranger rang her, or she rang the ranger. And anyways, so we went out the bush, out of Manangrita, and we found a little pool. I had to wear one of these glasses here, these see-through glasses where you can see through. So if I would have seen something move, I would have been out of that pool as quick as... I would have got her out as well. But it's a challenge sometimes when you're travelling through community, and there's lots of people want to be baptised, but they were having Bible studies with Pastor Don on the phone before I got there. By the way, they asked Pastor Darren to do the baptism because they knew him more than they knew me, but he said, let Pastor John do it. You know why he said let Pastor John do it? I think he knew what I didn't know. But anyways, we go out to communities such as Nunkumba. This lady here, she got given a phone by Georgina Derrida, Jeannie Nagura, and Pastor and she had the link for Pastor Don's wife's program that she was running, a worship every day. And then she texted Eileen, Pastor Don's wife, who's this, she said. And Eileen said, this is Pastor Don's wife, Eileen. Do you still want to hear? And she said, okay, do you still want to receive the link for the worship every morning? She said, yes. Can you keep sending it? I'm enjoying it. So Eileen told us, we went to see into the Nunkumba community. It took us 2.5 hours to go 70 kilometres. We got in there at 11 o'clock, and my wife is now signing her up for Mama Rafa Bible College at 11 o'clock at night. And now they both, her and her husband have signed up for Mama Rafa Bible College now. And at Utopia, at Mosquito Homeland, this lady here, Genevieve Loy, I baptised her when I was working in Port Augusta. They both come out, or the whole family comes out of a Catholic church, but she learnt of the Adventist message, and I baptised her there. And now she's a police officer in Utopia, and also she's sharing the gospel with some of her non-Adventist Christian people, Christian friends and family, and now they want to hear the gospel. A few weeks ago, or a few months ago, she asked me to send some stuff, but I'm going to take some stuff personally to them when I get there. Tennant Creek, we go there, and we had worship here. The Fijian couple are working at Uluru. We decided to have worship at the Rock. Never had worship there before, but we had Sabbath at the Rock. This is you can't climb it no more, as you know, but this is the marks over the years and years of people going up and back, up and down. And our last trip in October last year, we went into to Arnhem Land, and this is the new kind of area that we've been getting into. And so we had to camp at Jabiru because the river that we had to cross was a tidal river. When the tide's in, it's up over a metre. When it goes out, that's when you're supposed to cross. So, and this Jabiru is named after this beautiful big bird here. this town. And then the next morning, after we packed up, we decided to go across. My wife took this photo, and my daughter and I was in the car. We crossed over here, and when I got over here, I said, "Okay, Yen," which is her name, my wife, "you can walk across now." And Ashima said, "No, Daddy, no, Daddy." But there's crocodiles everywhere throughout this, and just right here, a fatal attack occurred here, right there. And my daughter here standing up, there's crocodiles through. This is only a couple of them. There was others, I think, floating around here and behind. She's safe. we made sure that she was safe before I went. But the next day, 4 days after we went across, this man decided to go across the same river that I went in when the tide was in. And instead of waiting for it to go out, he decided to cross it when the tide was in. And this is the little National 9 News.
This is cool I've seen at Car Hills Crossing without someone getting their hair wet. This fella decides to cross the river when there's a metre of water flooding upstream, crocodiles everywhere. Look how close he comes. You can see the front of the car gets washed off, then the back gets washed off by some remarkable feat.
Oh my God.
He managed to get some purchase and pull himself out of it without getting washed upstream. Look how many crocodiles. This was filmed just a couple of minutes later. That's 15 big crocs. Crazy.
If he would have went in, he would have been dead. He would have been eaten alive. Then we went across to Manangrita. This is Jabiru where we were here. And then we went across to Manangrita where we're having a worship. This is a little group up here, Fijian group. These are the two that we baptised a couple of years before. This was happened just last year. And now they have Nana Susan. She cooks dampers and cooks food for a lot of our people, takes them around. Alpo here, he's kind of like the handyman around the place, and he works for the health there, but he also does a lot of ministry work as well. And this lady here, she's a non-Adventist, but she comes along to church. And after that, we went to Gupperwick. And Gupperwick, from there we went over across here. Where's Gupperwick? Somewhere around here. And I met these couple here, Lindsay and Margaret, a few years beforehand. Now they're at Mamarafa Bible College. They're the leaders in their community as a pastor they are. And he took me around and introduced me to his mum, the pastor here, the local pastor of their congregation, some of their members. And then that night we had a program, and quite a few people come along, but there was a lot not there because of sorry time. And he said to me, "Come back." Lindsay said, "Come back after next time and we'll do a whole program, a whole week's program." Look how tall this man here. He came up to me and said after, I was talking about the end times, and in 1 Timothy 4 verse 1 says, God's Spirit clearly says that in the last days, many people will turn from their faith. They will be fooled by evil spirits and teachings that come from demons. And I had this little place up here, this little image up here. Many people get going back into cultural practices. He came up to me after and said, "That's me." He said, I'm doing that. I'm going back into my cultural practices instead of sticking with Mama, their God. But anyway, I just encouraged him and said, keep faithful. And God understands, but he will also, get you through this. Then we went to Nhulunbuy, right up here in the top of Australia here. We were on our way back down to Numbawa, and I'll share that little story in a minute. But there's a young man up there who's willing to be involved in our ATSIM work as well. He's from Timor-Leste. And he said, if anything I can do, then we can do it. And we're planning on running a program up there. There was a group of people up there when I planned to go up there, but then since then they moved down to Adelaide. And so there's just this young man here now up there. But after we came back from Numbawa, this is Gapawiyik here, where Lindsay and Margaret, they are. And this lady here, Patricia, she was working at Nullumboy. And she was working with, or studying with a man from Solomon Island, an Adventist man. And she learned about the Sabbath, she learned about the state of the dead, she learned about other things. And when she moved to Darwin, she called me up, and then I went around and talked to her, and I introduced her to the Malak Church, and they took her under her wing because I'm in and out of Darwin. But she sent me this text one day. She said, Pastor John, I've been talking to my adult kids. I told them we are in the last days. They know I'm a follower of SDA, so she calls herself an SDA now. And it's up to you. If you want, we can go to Numbawa and say hello to my 3 children and my families. Is that okay? Then she sent me another text and said, maybe do a bit of study with them and my family. So she wants them to know about the Adventist message. And so from here, I was here, and to get to Numbawa, we had to come all the way down to the highway, Catherine down here, cross to Mataranka, and then from Mataranka, start our way up here. This is Bitumen Road, because then it starts to break, and then it gets smaller and smaller. The road gets worse and worse. And so we had to get here, and it would have taken us around 14 hours to get to Numbawa. A man had come through, and he called Lindsay, and he said, because they knew where I was going, he said, I went through here, it took me about 7 hours, but the road is rough. And I said, okay, instead of going around here 14 hours, I'll take the 7 hours, because we've got a four-wheel drive off-road car. And so we decided to take the shortcut. He didn't say how rough it was. He said it was rough. Anyway, so we decided to go, and this is the road, and roads around the road, and also roads off the road to go around in between trees and logs and all that kind of thing. And this is just a little. My wife was out there with a. She takes photos of just about everything, which is good. So that's the road that we had to go off through, and then out through the bushes and so on. And then this is the gravel, some of the dirt road through here. I don't think is there any sound in this one? No sound. Anyways, so yeah, there was logs all over the road, and we had to pull up and grab them and take them off. There was pigs everywhere, and also there was buffaloes. You know, as you know, there was a cull done in over I don't know how many years now. There was just too many of them, so they had to cull them. But now they seem to be everywhere, and I think they're planning on another cull in the next few years. But while we were there, on our way, there was 4 ranger cars with 6 rangers in them. And he asked me for my permit, so I gave him the permit. If I travel through the APY lands and the Northern Territory, the WA lands there, I don't need a permit because I'm Aboriginal as part of that area. But when I go up, or if anybody goes up to Northern Territory, they have to have a permit, whether you're Aboriginal. The only people that can go through it is the local people themselves. And it also protects them from having been swamped by people just go up there, and because it's a bucket list of many people that want to go up and do the track and so on. But anyways, he looked at my permit and said, you're not supposed to be on this road. This road only allows you to go down that long road that I was telling you, and then back up to Numbawa. But he said, it seems that you're here now, which took us quite a few hours, you can go through. But they didn't tell us that they were burning off behind them. And we didn't know either. Anyway, so we set off and we started seeing smoke and so on. And this is what we was faced with the fires everywhere. And the fires got quite close to us as well. And this is one of the little video clips that my wife was taking as we were driving, as I was driving, I should say. And we got close, but I didn't want to put that other close video in because you know how stupid I was to go so close to the fire. But we got around, and then we had to turn around and come back again. And because I said, I'm not going to take my family through there because you don't know what on the other side, because there's fire, smoke everywhere. And so we turned around. This is where we turned around, where the fire was. So we came back down here, and then we took this road here. And this is the Hema app, and it tracks you where you've been. It's about $100, but it can work offline. So we were here, but we had to get down to here, Numbua. So we had still a long way to go. And then, so this road here that we were going down is this road here. And just back here, a little bit further than this road, I should have taken a photo where it was, but I never. Well, my wife was doing the photographing anyways. But it was all washed away from the previous rain. And as I went through it, it just bellied me on the diff. My diff got caught, and the two tyres, that back tyres were just spinning. So I tried putting it in four-wheel drive, and that just dug in as well because it was stuck on the diff. So I jacked the back up here, scraped the dirt away, put the recovery tracks underneath it. It just spun, didn't get out. So I said to my wife, okay, I've got a winch. So I put the winch on, and it's the first time I used the winch since I had the car. Hooked it up to the tree. This is not I just took this photo to talk on. I hooked it up to the tree, and my wife had control of the winch. I was in the car, and what had happened was ARB, who set this winch up, they should have put this winch wire to this terminal on the positive side. There's another little terminal that goes off from here where there's a fuse on that, and there's fuses underneath there. As soon as my wife pushed the power through the winch, it blew all these fuses. And I was just stuck, and I checked all the other fuses in the box, not knowing that there was another fuse there, and underneath there. Anyways, I knew I was in trouble because my front window was down as well, and there was smoke coming, and the whole dash lit up, and window down, can't start the car up, can't move the car. I moved it a little bit, I can move it backwards, and that's as far as I can go. I went back, and I just about hit a tree as I was trying to turn it around. I was going to drive it out backwards because you'll see the smoke. So I had a sat phone, and it was an old phone that Pastor Don had, and it didn't work. No one was picking up. I tried the Uniden handheld radio, didn't work. Pastor Don also gave me an old EPIRB, and they reckon changed the EPIRB every 12 months to make sure, or 2 years at the most. I think he had it for I don't know how many years because it was an old style one. Anyway, so I end up pulling the thing out, whatever it is, and hoping that it'll reach Canberra. And also, this is the visibility that we had through our front window, and the smoke was coming in, and I started feeling negative, and I said, I can't believe that God allowed us to get into this situation. And my wife said to me, don't be negative, keep trusting God, keep on trusting Him. And because she's third generation Adventist, and she's stronger than I was. And anyways, so we started singing songs, in times like these, you need a saviour, and reciting those memory verses. And I started changing my attitude. And because, 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 18 says, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. It doesn't say give thanks for all circumstances, does it? It says give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. So I started turning around and started giving thanks and praising God so he can do what he does best, get us out of trouble that we get ourselves into. And then because God lives in praise, doesn't he? The enemy wanted me to stay up here in this situation, blaming, doubting, but God wanted us down here. God wanted us to praise God, and so he can get us out. And then, that's my late wife. Yen, she started thinking about things that she learned a long time ago that she totally forgot about. She said, get a towel and put it over the window. So I got the water out and I soaked the towel, put the towel over the window, and I believe that towel saved our lives. And so there was still smoke coming in through the vents and so on because the vents were open. And then she said, get another towel, wet that, and each of us can grab a corner each and breathe in through the towel so that we're not breathing the smoke directly into our lungs. And so we're using it as a filter. So I got a towel and I had a corner, Yen had a corner, Ashima had a corner, and we was breathing in through that towel. And then before we left, Yen decided to activate her iPhone 16, which had an emergency call system on it. So she sent it off, she let it off, and she had to get a satellite. It says keep moving the satellite to the left, and it picked up one of the satellites. And somebody answered back on the other end and says, you have reached Emergency Relay Centre. I'm reviewing the information you provided. Okay, please describe exactly what happened. And she said, okay, we're in Numbua Road. Our car engine went into limp node, window down, not able to wind the window up, air conditioning not working, bushfire all around us, heavy smoke. Okay, please describe exactly what you think. Contacted police. Police wanted our colour of the car and style and license plate, everything like that. And this was then at 11:55 in the morning, or just about morning anyways. And they were in contact with the ambulance, and they said, keep on using your puffers, because we had some puffers there. Keep using your puffers because it'll open up, your wind and windpipes and all that. So we did. And then at 11:58, they said, the bloke on the other end, we don't know his name, we don't know what he looks like, whether it's a he or she, says, I'm going to let you go now. Help is on the way. If anything worsens in blah, 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 text me back immediately. And Yen said, thank you, whoever you are. We're in Australia. And they said, we are based in the Netherlands. And she said, no wonder you didn't know where we were. But he said, we are in direct contact with all emergency services all over Australia. And, it reminds us of this world. It reminded me of this world. This world is on fire, or it's going to be anyways. And, God is in direct contact with this broken world all over the world. And also, help is on the way. We're going to get the help soon, eventually. But anyways, we tried to get some sleep throughout the rest of the night, and our daughter was kind of really, really scared. She told me, she said, Dad, what was the word she said? Anyway, it slipped my mind. But she was going to the toilet every 10 minutes because of the fear and because of, Anyways, she ended up going to sleep. And we woke up the next morning, and this is what we woke up to. fired out, but the smoke is all still there. And this is where I ended up trying to get the car. I can only go backwards. I was trying to turn it around, but there's no power to even get up here. Went into limp mode. And this is the towel that we wet to put over the window, which saved our lives. And then Ashima, our daughter, still sleeping. But I'm glad she's breathing. And then we heard a noise, a car noise coming through here, through the road. And I had some problems with the police when I was young, so I didn't really fancy police that much. But to see the police arrive, it was the best time that I've ever seen and appreciated police coming. So this is the sergeant. They left Gapawiik, where Lindsay and Margaret was, 11 o'clock that night, and they didn't get to us until 8 o'clock the next morning. The smoke had lifted, and they didn't get to us until 8 o'clock the next morning. And he said to me, I don't know why I kept driving down this road as it leads to nowhere, but I was impressed just to keep driving because they was following that navigator, the EPIRB that I sent off, which I didn't even know it got there. And he said, I would have been here a lot earlier, but the EPIRB was just bouncing all over the place. They went down following the other road that I was on first. They just about reached Numbawa. And they said, no, they couldn't have kept coming this way. So they turned around and they just came down this road here. I know why that he was impressed, because we started giving praise to God instead of negative, the negative attitude that I had. And God got us out of that mess, that situation that night. And Ashima had her first ride in the back of the paddy wagon at the age of 8. Yeah. And the police gave us a room for 2 nights. The next night I had to get this mechanic to take us out. He was a pig hunter. And he spent all night, I was so tired because I just came back the next night, and then I had to go out the next day to recover the vehicle. But when we got there, he's stitching up a dog, one of his dogs, for the second time. There's a big lash down here and another big lash on his side of his mouth from, I think they got about 12 pigs that night from all the tusk that was, that those bull, what do they call pigs have? Balls. Anyways, when he got there, he asked me to try the ignition, and he put a spanner from here to there, and the dash came on, and all he did was get a bit of wire, crossed it over there, and put it on this terminal, from this terminal to that terminal where the fuse is. And about probably five minutes, I paid for his fuel, and he charged me $1,500 to do that, to put a thing. There's no protection because there's no fuse. So if anything went wrong, it would have blew all the computers out in the car. But anyways, when we got home, we as I mentioned, we carry resources. This is one of our ATSIM Bibles that we have, and we wrote a bit of a note to the sergeant and his offsider and his corporal, or whatever they got, lieutenant, or I'm talking army now, aren't I? Anyways. We wrote this little note to them and gave them a Bible and a poster. And this is what we wrote. Dear Sergeant Chobber, which is spelt like that, my family and I just want to thank you for rescuing us on August 30, 2024. You went beyond your line of duty without asking for anything in return. We have nothing else to give you in thanks for your effort in saving us. But we would like to give you a poster and a Bible that shows of a rescue effort that saved a sinful world. And John 3:16. Our prayer is that one day you will find a need to reach out and accept this offer to be saved. May God continue to bless you and your work and your life. John Yen Ashima Beck. And we gave that to them, and we know that they got it because we left pretty early the next morning, and we were gone by the time that they woke up. But he got it because he told Lindsay. But this is the poster that we gave them as well. And, you know, a lot of posters or pictures of Jesus coming back is over cities. But we, as our ATSIM team, we decided to put a series of posters out, 14 in total. And this is the poster of Jesus coming back for the Outback people in community. And we gave that to them as well. So I will go. And Matthew 24:14 says, "And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come." So we have to go out to all these communities as well. Romans 10:14 and 15 says, "How then can they call on the one they have not believed in?" Question mark. "And how can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard?" Question mark. "And how can they hear without someone preaching to them?" Question. "And how can they preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news." How beautiful are the feet of those. Pastor Quinlan, Pastor Vaughan, Pastor Davey, Pastor Darren, Pastor Steve, Pastor Don, Pastor Keith and Pastor Danuta and their ministry that they're doing here. How beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news to the people here in South Australia and throughout Australia. But things don't always go as planned, as you heard my story. And Ellen White had a vision, and some of you probably know of this vision that she had of the church family, the remnant church, on the way back to the heavenly kingdom. And it was, at first the road was wide, and as the road got closer and closer to the heavenly kingdom, it got narrower and narrower. They had to leave all their baggages in their horse carts behind our cars and trucks and whatever we have. They're going to have to stay one day in our houses. And she noticed that there was a cord dropping down from the sky, and it was about the size of a man's finger. And that's the only thing that they could hold on to. But as the road got narrower and narrower, the cord got thicker and thicker. And eventually, the cord carried them over to the heavenly kingdom. What do you think that cord would represent? Anybody know what it... Sorry? Close. We're saved by grace through faith. That our faith is going to get stronger and stronger as time comes to a close. As the world gets worse and worse, our faith is going to increase. So whatever we are endure, our faith would carry us home. Another vision she had. Now, something else most unusual happened in the dream, she said. The angel handed Alan a green cord, and the green cord represents life. Place this next to your heart, she said. The angel instructed, when you wish to see Jesus, take the green cord and stretch it all the way out. Do this often, she said, because you don't want the cord to get knotted up, the angel said. To Alan, the green cord represented faith and trusting in Jesus. So when we go through trials, when we go through persecutions and so on, grab a cord, stretch it out over your heart, because that cord also represents faith in Jesus. Just like our faith in the other dream that she had when the road got so narrow that we didn't know what to do. So I'm going to ask the singers to come up and just sing this song. I just keep trusting my Lord as I walk along. I just keep trusting. Though the storm clouds darken the skies of the heavenly trail, I just keep trusting in the Lord. He will never fail. He'll never fail us. One of the things that I've learned in this situation that I found myself in is that to give thanks in God in all circumstances. Not for all circumstances, but in all circumstances, and God will get us through.